ESimple channel.
English for all. Learning and exploring together.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the episode number 4 of our podcast. We're Adam and Hannah, and we're buzzing with excitement to be here with you today. In today's episode, we're going to talk about coffee, from its humble beginnings to its global domination. So grab your favorite cup of coffee, get cozy, and let's brew up some fun.
Hey everyone, welcome to this deep dive. We are going all in on coffee today.
Sounds delicious.
I know, right? We're going to trace its journey, from just a bean to like this global thing we can't live without.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy how much goes into every cup, like the history and the culture.
Totally.
Yeah.
So to kick things off, let's rewind way back. What's the deal with that story everyone's heard about Kaldi and his goats?
Ah, yeah, Kaldi the goat herd. Classic. So the legend goes that he noticed his goats in Ethiopia, getting all hyped up after eating berries from this one specific plant.
And then I'm guessing those berries were
coffee berries, of course. He tried them himself, got curious, and boom, same energy boost.
So coffee was discovered by accident. I love that. But is any of that story actually true?
Honestly, it's hard to say for sure. Pinpointing the exact origins of coffee drinking, it's a bit of a mystery.
Okay, fair enough.
But we know for a fact that Ethiopia was using coffee super early on. And get this, they weren't just drinking it. They ate the berries, put them in food. They were really into coffee in all its forms.
Wow, hardcore coffee fans from the start.
For real.
So how did coffee go from Ethiopia to, everywhere?
Trade routes, definitely. It spread through the Middle East, landed in Yemen, and that's where things really took off. By the 15th century, coffee was like a staple in the Ottoman Empire.
I can picture it now, those bustling marketplaces, the aroma of coffee everywhere.
Oh, yeah, totally. And speaking of the Ottoman Empire, get ready for this. In 1511, coffee was actually put on trial in Mecca.
Wait, what? Coffee on trial? Why? What happened?
Some folks, authorities at the time, they were worried about coffee's stimulating effects and if it was okay for Muslims to drink. Caused a huge debate.
Wow, I never knew that. So what was the verdict?
The scholars ultimately decided it was fine. And that decision basically opened the floodgates for coffee to spread even further.
That must have been a huge relief for coffee lovers back then. Imagine if they had banned it.
Right. Can you imagine? And you know what happened next? With coffee officially allowed, coffeehouses started popping up all over the Middle East. And eventually, they made their way over to Europe, too.
Coffeehouses are still popular today. But back then, I bet they were even more important, right? No internet or phones to distract people?
Exactly. Coffee houses became the social hubs. All kinds of people gathered there to share news, debate ideas, even do business deals. They became centers of, intellectual and scientific discussion.
Wow, the original social media, powered by caffeine.
That's a great way to put it. It was a time of just massive curiosity, and coffee houses were the perfect place for all those discussions to happen. I read that in 1679, the scientist Robert Hooke actually dissected a porpoise in a London coffee house.
A porpoise? Wow, they really took their coffee breaks seriously back then. Talk about a unique study session.
Yeah.
So coffee houses were clearly driving coffee's popularity, but I think the taste itself played a role too, right?
Absolutely. While coffee was booming in the Middle East, Europeans were initially not so keen on its bitter taste.
Makes sense. It's an acquired taste for sure.
It is. But then in France, someone had a brilliant idea. They started adding milk and sugar.
Making it a bit sweeter and smoother. That was a game changer.
Totally. That one little tweak helped coffee become a massive hit in Europe across all social classes. There are even stories of famous figures like Voltaire, the writer, drinking dozens of cups a day.
Wow, talk about a serious coffee habit. So we've got coffee taking over the Middle East and Europe. But I feel like there's got to be more to the story, right?
There's always more to the story, right? So as coffee got more and more popular, European empires saw a chance to cash in. They started setting up these huge plantations in their colonies.
So this is where things start to get a little
Yeah, this is where the dark side of coffee comes in. These plantations were mainly in Asia, Latin America, and the Caribbean. And to keep up with the demand for coffee, they relied heavily on slave labor and exploitation.
That's a really tough part of history to think about, especially when we're enjoying our coffee today.
It is. It's a part we can't ignore. The displacement of indigenous people, the environmental damage from clearing land for those plantations, it's all part of coffee's legacy.
It's important to remember that context as we talk about coffee's journey. So how do we go from those plantations to the coffee we have today?
Okay, so fast forward to the 20th century, Brazil comes onto the scene. They became like the coffee powerhouse, producing a huge chunk of the world's beans.
Okay, so Brazil takes the lead. What else changed?
Around the same time, bam, the commercial espresso machine is invented.
Oh yeah, the espresso machine. That feels like a big turning point.
It was huge. It changed everything about how we make and drink coffee. It's what led to the specialty coffee movement we see today. People started focusing on the different beans, where they come from, how they're roasted, all the details.
So coffee became more than just a drink. It became like an art.
Exactly. People started looking for high-quality beans, specific regions known for certain flavors, kind of like with wine, The terroir, the grape varietals, it all matters.
That makes total sense. And with that focus on quality, did we also start to see more awareness of ethical sourcing and those issues?
Absolutely. Consumers started to pay more attention to the challenges coffee farmers face, especially in developing countries.
Right, because it's easy to forget that there are real people behind every cup of coffee.
Exactly. And that's where certifications like Fair Trade, Organic, and Rainforest Alliance come in.
I see those labels all the time. But to be honest, I'm not always sure what they really mean for me as a coffee drinker.
So fair trade, that's all about fair wages and safe working conditions for the farmers. Organic, that means the coffee was grown without synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. And Rainforest Alliance, they focus on protecting biodiversity and sustainable farming practices.
So when I choose coffee with those certifications, I'm actually supporting those ethical practices.
Exactly. You're making a choice that benefits the people growing the coffee and the planet too. It's not just about taste anymore, it's about making a difference.
It really puts things in perspective. So we've got this growing awareness of ethics, but coffee is also changing in other ways too, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Over in East Asia, they started doing pre-prepared coffee drinks, like canned coffee, bottled coffee, that kind of thing. Added a whole new level of convenience.
It's amazing how coffee has adapted to different cultures and lifestyles, right?
Yeah.
From ancient Ethiopia to European coffee houses to plantations to espresso, and now these ready-to-drink options. What a journey. But with everything going on in the world, like climate change, I have to wonder, what's next for coffee?
That's the big question everyone in the coffee world is asking right now. Climate change is already having a real impact on those coffee-growing regions.
So what does that mean for, our daily cup? Will we even be able to drink coffee in the future?
Well, the bean belt, that area around the equator where coffee grows best, it's actually predicted to shrink because of climate change.
Shrink? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Less land for growing coffee means we could see smaller harvests, prices going up, maybe even shortages of some types of coffee.
That's kind of a scary thought for a coffee lover like me.
Yeah.
Are people doing anything to try and, solve this?
They are, thankfully. Scientists are working on developing new coffee hybrids that can handle the changing climate, tougher plants.
Wow, so climate-proof coffee?
Exactly. They're also looking at different ways to grow coffee, like using shade to protect the plants from extreme heat, stuff like that.
So it's not all doom and gloom, there's hope.
Yeah. It's a race against time, for sure, but everyone in the coffee industry, they're really dedicated to finding solutions. That gives me some optimism.
It really shows how much coffee means to people all over the world.
Totally. And it reminds us that we all have a part to play in coffee's future.
What do you mean?
Our choices matter. Supporting sustainable coffee farms, being mindful of our own environmental impact, all of that adds up.
I never thought about it like that before, but it makes sense.
It all connects.
Wow, this has been such an eye-opening deep dive. We've learned so much, from those goats in Ethiopia to climate change and everything in between.
It's been a wild ride through coffee history.
It has. What would you say is, the biggest takeaway from all of this?
I think it's that coffee is way more than just a drink. It's like this whole web of history, culture, the economy, and the environment all tied together. Every cup tells a story, and we're all part of that story.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Thanks.
So the next time we all grab our coffee, let's take a minute to think about its journey, from bean to cup. Think about the people who grew it, the places it came from.
Yeah. It might change how you see that morning brew.
Maybe it'll even inspire you to, learn more about coffee, try new things, experiment with different brewing methods. The world of coffee is huge.
Definitely. There's always something new to discover.
That's the beauty of it. So until next time, everyone, happy sipping.